Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling has more than one royal family. I am my kingdom! I am my
kingdom! Sami Callihan. He's a villain in the wrestling industry, right? He's disgusting. He spits things at people. The way he talks, he's an ass. People call him a try-hard because they don't buy into his character the way that Jeff do. But fact remains, he's one of the best characters in professional wrestling, and he's fearless. He doesn't mind stepping into a ring with a woman and gets to shine the way that another one of Jeff would do. And Slammiversary, he proved that. They got in the ring, they wrestled, in my opinion, the best match of the year so far. And Sami clearly put Tessa Blanchard over. You know, it was one of those situations that Jeff and I like to talk about where one guy went over, the other, in this case, girl, got over. He wrestled an incredible match against Tessa. He gave her everything he could. Tessa took everything she could and gave her best. And when the match ended, Tessa had held her own against Sami, and Sami showed her the ultimate respect by handing her a bat back and giving her the ring to close the show. So the question on Friday night was, could they both do it again? How's it going today, Jeff?
Not too bad. How about you?
I'm good, and I forgot to introduce. Welcome to Kingdom of Honor. This is your usual host, Shane Zanman Sabunya. And I've had a weird few days. I know you said you had a rough weekend as well, and I don't know if you want to talk about it at all. That's up to you.
I've had a rough week since last Tuesday. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that is true. But I had a rough weekend mainly because I started feeling crappy like Friday night. Thursday I started feeling crappy and went home from work, and I thought I was feeling better on Friday, and I really wasn't. So we went to the fair with my granddaughter, and it kind of wore me out. And I just kind of slept from 7 o'clock at night until the next morning. And then yesterday, my throat was really bothering me and stuff, so I didn't do much, and I kind of chilled. And then today, I was feeling a lot better for most of the day. Came home, told my wife, I got my show tonight. I'm not going to do much for supper. I'll just make you some cheddar broth. I'll make myself some corn dogs. And I went to eat my corn dogs with some ketchup and realized they were not corn dogs. They were maple-flavored sausage wrapped in pancakes. So that was just an amazing taste sensation.
First of all, ketchup. Ew. But I would have rather had the maple sausage wrapped in pancakes than a corn dog anyway.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want the ketchup.
I don't want anything dipped in ketchup. Ketchup is demon jizz. It's the most disgusting flavor on the planet.
Well, excuse me, I don't dip everything into salsa like you do, okay?
I mean, seriously, it's like, you know how they make ketchup?
No.
They take an empty bottle and some Playboys to the gates of hell and let the demons just have at it.
That's why it tastes so good.
I don't say. I don't even know what to say from that. I'm too tired to even think right now. So.
My throat's still kind of bothering me too, so I don't know how much I'll be able to talk. But I do have some tea steeping right now, so hopefully the tea in this with some lemon and honey will.
I heard that. I was going to ask you about that. Are you really doing tea on a stovetop?
Yeah.
I haven't heard a tea whistle since like the 80s. A tea kettle whistle like that?
Well, how else would you make tea?
The microwave.
No.
It's hot water.
That's disgusting.
2 minutes in a cup.
2 minutes in a cup? That's not the right temperature.
Yeah, it is. 212 degrees.
No. You don't steep tea at 212 degrees. Whatever. I'm a heathen because you eat ketchup. You're a heathen because you steep tea at 212 degrees. What the fuck's wrong with you?
Dude, I haven't had tea in probably 20 years either, so there's that too. I don't necessarily know how to steep it or even how to cook it.
Clearly. You stick to your tea and I'll stick to my ketchup.
So one thing
I'll stick to my tea and you stick to ketchup.
One thing I want to get out of the way is our Patreon site. Check it out. It's www.patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. We've got tiers all the way from $1 to $10. We'll never have a tier over $10, but there is a ton of content. If you get that $10 tier, our $1 tier is all the articles and blog posts that I've written over the last 10 years. Tier 2 is our archive show along with those articles. Tier 3 is those articles in our archives. Plus, we're going to throw you some of our non-wrestling stuff. Like we do Marvel, music, comic books, movies, just whatever we feel like doing at the time. And then Tier 4 is our new series where we're breaking down the ECW pay-per-views. We're going to have another one of those this Thursday. Was supposed to be last Thursday, but someone's life just kind of turned upside down. And that was so we had to cancel it. And then
did you just quote the Fresh Prince?
I did. I've been doing that a lot lately. Just unknowingly, I've been doing it.
Okay.
And then our top tier is our Legacy series, where we take a look at one wrestler, all of his achievements. We each pick our 4 of our favorite matches and kind of run from there. But you'll never pay more than $10 because I don't believe that anybody should pay more than $10 for content. And there's new things coming all along. The more Patreons we get, the more people we get donating to us, the more we can offer. So just want to throw that out there that that's up and running, and go to patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor and enjoy all the goodness.
Goodness.
There, I got my shameless plug out of the way.
That's okay. We're good with shameless plugs around here.
I like to do that. Just be thankful I don't. I can't remember the guy's name.
Mick Foley?
No, the 83 Weeks.
Oh, Eric Bischoff?
No, the other one.
Conrad Thompson.
Yeah, just be thankful I don't do what he does and just cut you off in the middle of a sentence to give a plug about a commercial.
I'm sure you've done that before.
No, I cut you off in the middle of sentences all the time. But that's just because you're an idiot and I have to correct you. Not because I'm playing.
You forgot which one's the actual idiot around here.
Well, we both are. Let's just put it that way. I am more so than you, obviously, but...
All right, so we've had some interesting announcements from AEW over the last week and a half or so. And basically what we're looking at is that AEW's TV show is going to debut on October 2nd. And they've made some announcements about what we're going to see on that show. The very first announcement that they made... What was that?
I have absolutely no clue. My phone just started playing an odd commercial out of nowhere.
Okay. So
I am so lost at this moment.
All right. So anyway, they announced that the first match ever on AEW TV is going to be Cody taking on a guy that we've been touting on the show, but has not really been featured much on AEW so far, and that's Sammy Guevara. Very exciting news, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And they've faced off before. You can see their earlier match if you go to Sammy Guevara's channel, and it was really good. And if you're Being the Elite fan, or you watch the Road to Double or Not kind of where Cody acted like he had some legitimate beef with Sammy Guevara. It just kind of tore into him and basically told him he was a waste. And then if you go back and watch the match, you can see why. I mean, they were both playing the heel, and Sammy is such a good natural heel. He's humble, giving guys. I think I've a YouTube channel, and he's amazing. But he makes a great heel, and he out-heeled Cody. And I love the fact that they kind of brought us back to that in Double or Nothing, and it's. If you're paying attention to that stuff, it's building towards this on October 2nd.
Right. Yeah, and we've looked Sammy Guevara as Mr. Make of character at the NWA 70th anniversary show last year, but this is the first time. I mean, he had against Kip Sabian at Double or Nothing, and he was in a six-man at not a six-man, but it was a six-man. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a six-man
at Fight for the Fallen that opened the show. But this will be his first chance really getting a feature singles match, and he's opening the show against one of the owners and founders of the company, and not owners, but one of the founders and vice presidents of the company, and Cody Rhodes. So I don't think you could possibly ask for more if you were Sammy.
Well, and Sammy Guevara in both the shows he's on, he's just breakout performances. He was literally part of the That Man match, and then he kind of stole the match out from under Kip Sabian. And even though Kip Sabian got the win, Sammy Guevara, his character went over and his moveset. So I mean, he's looked impressive. He it makes for a great heel. It's just, I think that it's a really bright future, and I'm glad to see him get that rub right off the bat.
Absolutely. Also announced for the show, which I'm a little bit iffy on, is that they will decide the first ever women's world champion on that TV show. Reason I'm iffy about it is because they already decided their world championship, I guess men's world championship, in a weird way, and now it seems like they're not going to do much of a tournament to crown the first ever women's champion either, which is a bit disappointing as well as puzzling.
But yet they're going to do a full tournament to crown the tag team champions.
Yes.
It makes no sense. Why not do tournaments to crown them all?
Yeah, I have no idea. It is really weird. I mean, I can understand wanting them to do something different with each one of them, but I don't know. I mean, having one guy win a battle royal, another guy win a singles match to get a shot at the world title is really weird. And now we have no idea what they're going to do for the women's championship. They said there's going to be details coming up on Road to All Out. So maybe we'll get more of a clue on there. I mean, certainly sounds like we're going to. But I mean, if it's something like Audrey Kong taking on Awesome Kong, whoever wins that faces off against whoever wins between like Brandy and Allie or something. That's just another weird way to decide it kind of out of nowhere and out of random. And plus, Allie's lost, so she really shouldn't be in the picture anyway.
Right, exactly. I mean, if anybody, it should be B. Presley.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that B and Allie are going to face off here soon too.
Based on
the way Allie. I'm sorry, Britt Baker. With the way that
and B. Priestley?
Yeah, with the way that match ended.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, well, if you don't know my feelings about Britt Baker by now, I'll say them one more time. She's overrated, and she doesn't belong in her spot.
I have to agree. I think maybe someday she could get there, but she's way too green now to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's nepotism for her, and I hate saying that about an organization that I love so far, and I've really been excited about. But I really feel like she doesn't deserve her spot, and that this is all because, she's the girlfriend of one of their best friends.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's a little bit. It really is.
Also announced for their first ever TV show is that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega will be facing Chris Jericho and Stu Missy, which AKA means that Young Bucks and Kenny Omega taking Chris Jericho and LAX.
You think LAX? I was going with Brothers.
You're going with who?
Lucha Brothers.
No, the Lucha Brothers are already signed. Why would they be mystery partners?
They do that shit all the time.
AEW does that shit all the time?
Well, wrestling in general does that shit all the time. And it's somebody that's already on the roster that we've seen a million times. Just ends up being main event players they could put in the spot. Isn't LAX set to go after the Impact Championship next week?
Not that I'm aware of. They're not signed with Impact any longer.
I thought they announced. Dago took over for I think Santana. I think it's Ortiz and Dago now. Santana's, yeah. We're talking about it on Unbreakable, which, again, if you missed it, it's easily explainable considering audio on that was such horseshit.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because actually, I totally miss it. But maybe that's just their contracted rematch, and then they're going to be gone for the company. 'Cause I know that their contract was up a couple of weeks ago.
All right, I'm looking it up here. Oh, it's not Doggo that's being... It's not on their Wikipedia yet. Maybe I misheard it. But I could have swore that I heard Josh babble something about that.
Yeah, maybe you did. Like I said, maybe that's their contracted rematch or something. But that still doesn't mean they'll be with the company come October 2nd. It's a couple months away.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's going to be LAX, and well, it might be because it's going to be two new guys that they haven't announced yet. Who would you say it is?
Two new guys that are just random?
Partner with Chris Jericho for a 6-man tag against Kenny Omega and the Bucks.
God, I don't know. I don't know who's out there. Maybe South Coast. They're unemployed recently.
Yeah, but are they? But would they want them?
It's hard to say. I don't know if I necessarily want them, but I also do like them and that they deserve a chance.
That's fair enough. Do you want to talk a little bit about your depression about Defiant closing its doors?
Yeah, I'm honestly sad about it. It was a promotion that I really didn't like in the beginning, but it kind of grew up the fact that that they had some really good characters on there. David Starr is just ridiculously underrated. I thought Rory Coyle was a really good heel. I liked South Coast Connection, and I liked the other one. Aussie, what was the other take? Oh, it's driving me nuts. I can't think of names.
Aussie Open?
Aussie Open, yeah. That's it. I mean, they were good. I liked Rampage Brown. I thought he had some talent. And a handful of other guys. Real Kids, another one that I thought had a lot of talent. So, I mean, they have a lot of pieces. It's just, they never deal. And never got that kind of exposure because they were just the internet organization. They finally started putting together pay-per-views, but nobody wanted to pay for them because they could just hear the results the next week for free on YouTube.
Yep.
And they didn't have enough of a history, even with WCPW and all the stuff they could do there, to really do anything. So, it's sad. I hate to see wrestling organizations go under, but that one kind of hurt me what they were doing.
Well, my take on them was that doing some of what they were doing, and then they had that pay-per-view where they totally fucked up the card and changed everything around when people had already paid to see what they had promoted, and that really made me say, "Fuck."
It wasn't.
If they're not going to give what they advertised, and they're gonna put this shit together, I'm not gonna watch them.
It wasn't so much that they changed the card. Injuries happen, and especially if you're Jimmy Havoc and you wrestle the whistle, you're gonna get injured. And the injury that kept him out of that pay-per-view was when he got his arm sliced open by the pizza cutter by Tom Lawler on MLW. So, and then the other one was an injury as well that ended up changing the card, but it was the way that they handled the changes by putting on just horrible, horrible matches where my problem came.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly what they put on, but I remember that it was a bunch of horse shit. So anyway, you can't book bullshit and then expect me to keep wanting to watch you.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I mean, at that time, it was not like it was riveting wrestling anyway. Neither one of us were really into it. I just kind of stuck with it because a couple of characters, well, because I had the time, and a couple of characters kind of just impressed me enough that I wanted to stick around.
Yeah, I mean, and Rory Coyle was probably the one guy that I would have kept watching for because you told me to watch this, this one clip with him, and he was just an awesome character. But at the same time, I wasn't. I don't, as we talked about before, I don't like watching just clips of things. I'm not one of those fans that watch YouTube clips in order to follow a product, and I didn't want to devote an hour each week to watching them. So.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. There is nothing Josh Matthews said. I'm looking all over all over the internet, and I can't find anything that talks about it. But I could have swore that Conan was bringing in a new partner, and I know Daga was mentioned, and I could have swore it was Hernandez.
Yeah, like I said, it could be, but it could be just off to get rid of that title stipulation.
It could be because I was really tired when I was watching the end of it. I mean, it's a possibility, I guess.
Wait, did you say Hernandez or Ortiz?
One of them. Somebody.
Because Hernandez was part of King's
the
group
original
against the 5150. So I mean that'd be kind of a weird twist, but
he was part of the original
LAX.
LAX.
Forming a new LAX with Daga and Hernandez, I guess that would make sense. But I know Santana was injured and has been for was told to rest his knee for a while. So
all right,
so if Ortiz was going to keep it going, he would either need to go as a single for a while or have a new partner for a little bit.
It is Ortiz and Daga.
Okay.
Impact Wrestling, I just found it. It's released 7 hours ago. Impact Wrestling releases backstage footage of Ortiz attacking the tag team champions. And then it's before their tag team championship rematch against the North this Friday, Ortiz ambushes the duo after their matchup in the main event. And it was the North versus Ortiz and Daga.
Okay. And
they're being called LAX.
Okay.
Santana's on the sideline, so Ortiz is stepping in for Santana.
No,
so
Daga
I don't. Well, yeah, Daga is. I'm sorry. So, yeah, I mean, with that, maybe you're right. Maybe this is a way to write LAX off. Maybe the North just pummels them to a point that they just get written off TV. But I can't really see that happening when Santana is just out with an injury. Now you're pummeling Ortiz and Daga. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is a way to write off and they're going to show up, but I really don't think so. I mean, they're on the MLW roster. They're going after a tag team title shot this week with a new partner.
Wait, who's on the MLW roster?
LAX.
I've never seen them wrestle in MLW before.
Dude, they were in the... they don't do tag teams on MLW anymore. Unless it's the Dynasty against the Hart Foundation, there's no such thing as a tag team. But
well, yeah, I guess they were in Battle Riot, weren't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'd heard that and Daga is on the MLW roster.
True.
And he's got bigger ears than Tom Lawler.
Does he? I never noticed.
Yeah, he does. He does. Why do you think Low-Key bit one off?
Because he felt like it?
So yeah, I knew I heard something right. So no, I do not think it's X. That's the mystery partners.
Okay, you do realize we're still talking about 2 months down the road, right?
Is it 2 months?
Yeah, October 2nd. Today's August 5th, so it's almost 2 months.
What day is today?
August 5th.
Dude, I thought we were still in July. It's been a rough week. It's been a really rough week. And for some reason, my Twitter is now turned to dark mode, so I don't know what's happening. My whole world is falling apart over here, guys.
Awesome.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I hope it's SCC or Aussie Open. I would love either one of those two to team with Jericho. I think SCC would be a great team with Jericho because of the heel work they've been doing. And they're kind of that slimy character that Jericho used to be back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I think they would fit really well as prodigies of his.
SCC.
Proteges or whatever, yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking up their contracts to see if there's anything about them re-signing, because I don't remember them. I've never heard anything about them re-signing yet.
About LAX re-signing?
About LAX re-signing, yeah. Yeah, because SCC and I saw you open and they re-signed with Defiant. That'd be really stupid of them.
Exactly. I was going to say, you better not be looking that up. I don't think anyone's going to pay that check.
Yeah, no, there's still nothing about them signing. Just that both WWE and AEW were expressing interest.
Well, I mean, they're one of the best tag teams in the world. And when you look at what AEW is trying to do, it makes sense. But I think they also have enough established tag teams that I'd like to see them bring in some more younger teams to nourish to get up to that Young Bucks, Lucha Brothers, Best Friends level. I mean, they have who's that party? The party? What the hell team was that?
Private Party.
Private Party, and they've got Angelico and Jack Evans, and they've got Dark Order, but none of those three. I mean, Dark Order is on that level, but nobody knows who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, people that are wrestling fans of independent wrestling know who the Super Smash Brothers are, but with the way their debut went, with just that dud, it was obvious that the general fan doesn't know who they are. So they've got to build them up.
Okay, so this article says the duo remain under contract until August for the promotion and will be available for Impact for their TV tapings this month in Windsor if they are booked to be there.
Oh, okay. So
they're booked. Well, it says to August. So August, what day? Who knows? But I'm assuming that if it's airing this coming Friday, it was already taped in July.
Probably, yeah.
Since Josh Matthews knew about the match, and apparently they had not set it up yet. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So,
that is true.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, I'm not saying that I want to see LAX in AEW. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but I do think that they're great in Impact. I would love to see them stay in Impact, but because that tag division is going to be really hurting a bit if they do leave.
And they've got such a great tag team division there too.
Impact?
Yeah.
I think with LAX they do. I think without LAX they struggle a bit. I mean, I like the North a lot. I like the Rascals a lot, and the Dieters. What's that team? The Dieters or whatever. Dieners.
The Dieners.
But I mean, if you get past that, there's really not a lot left.
That's true.
Especially since the Lucha Bros left too.
Well, yeah, exactly. And Juan
and they lost the original LAX not too long ago too, or at least early contracts are up. But I think they're probably wrestling on short-term deals anyway.
And King's now in Evolve, so I can't see him going back.
Right. But that doesn't mean you can't have the original LAX without King,
Right. The OGs.
Yeah, the OGs.
I mean, I don't know. I think they mesh well with Impact. I think they fit that darker look that Impact is going for than AEW. And the thing that's starting to scare me, and I've said this a million times, I'll keep saying it to everybody on Twitter that says, I want this guy to go sign there. I want that girl to sign there. I want this tag. They have a good amount of top tier talent right now. And they have a good amount of young guys who are top tier talent that you don't know names yet. They've got to be able to mix these guys together to build up characters. And when you keep bringing in top level talent that has a name, all you're doing is hurting the future of your product by pushing all these guys who deserve main event spotlights down. Like Luchasaurus, he's a main event player. He's a guy that could step in and be in the main event against Cody on any show and be believable. Problem is, not too many people know him. Outside of the Lucha Underground faithful, not too many people know him.
Yeah, and you don't want to have it. You don't want to have your organization set up like WWE, where you have such a great talent roster, but only a few of the TV time.
Right. So I think they've got the perfect size roster now. I really don't want to, unless it's a developmental tag team or somebody that's going to fit the mold, fit a storyline. I don't want to see them bring in anymore. I just want to see what they can do with what they have, and then adjust here and there as we go down the line.
I got the impression listening to Tony Khan on Steve Austin's podcast that for the tag team tournament, they were going to be bringing in a bunch of top teams from around the world. I got the impression similar to the Cruiserweight Classic, where they were going to bring them in, but not necessarily have them signed to contracts. So I mean, I think that'd be a good idea.
Just to have some extra teams on the card.
To have some extra teams in the tournament for the
Right.
titles. So basically, you're not just putting the teams that are quote unquote contracted with you in the tournament or have been announced as being contracted with you, but you're putting the best teams from around the world in there to compete for the championships.
Well, the best teams you can get. Obviously, teams from Ring of Honor and NJPW and WWE aren't going to be there.
True. But the best independent teams, the best LAX teams, the best. They'll probably have a team from OWE in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would make sense, and that would actually spark it up a little bit. A team from AAA.
Yeah.
Have that Lucha team, have a team from OVE, have a couple of independents on there, and their mainstays, which they've got a pretty decent sized tag team division with they've got 8 teams already signed. So I honestly I think they've got plenty when they're working in, and they've got enough teams right now and it also depends on the length of their shows. How long are their shows going to be? Are they going to be 2 hours?
Yeah, they're 2 hours every Wednesday night for 2 hours, 7 to 9.
Ugh. I really wish they would go with that 1 hour format. But even so,
then you have too big a roster for your show.
Well, yeah, exactly. But even so, with 2 hours, they've got the perfect roster for 2 hours to get enough exposure and give people weeks off. They can have 2 to 3 tag matches every single episode, and since they're concentrating on the sports side of it and the actual in-ring product, they're not going to have 3 and 4 minute matches. They're going to have 10, 15-minute matches. So when you factor that in, you get 3 or 4. Let's say you get 3 tag team matches. You get a women's match, or 2, and you get 2 to 3 of the male matches on a 2 hour show. That's plenty. And now you've got a lot of guys sitting on the bench. So next week you can have a whole different roster.
Sitting on the bench or doing promos and setting up their storylines.
Setting up stuff for next week or going forward. They've got I don't want to see them add anybody else unless, like I said, they want to bring in somebody like SCC who's got all the potential in the world, who would fit perfectly with Chris Jericho. I
would love to see them bring in, at least for the tag team tournament for kind of a tryout. I'd love to see them bring in that New York connection in House of Glory.
Oh yeah, they were really, really good.
Yeah,
really good, and they definitely deserve a shot somewhere.
You know who does not deserve a shot somewhere? That tag team that opened up the show on Impact's Unbreakable.
I was waiting until you brought that up. You want to talk about G1 a little bit before we go into that?
You can if you want to. Like I said, I've been paying it because it just, I don't know. I kind of lost interest when all my guys were losing. So.
When 70% of our favorites are already mathematically eliminated?
Yes.
Kenta, Sonata, ZSJ, Lance Archer, Will Ospreay, Jeff Cobb, Shingo Takagi, all eliminated. None of them can win now. In the A block, you've got
you say Sonata in there?
Yeah, Sonata's in there too.
That's bullshit.
You've got 3 people in the A block, and the third one, honest to God, makes no sense. You got Okada with 12 points and Kota Ibushi with 10. No surprise there. I think one of us. I thought was it you or was it me that picked Ibushi?
You did.
So that's no surprise. He was expected to win. But the one that confuses me is you've got Evil in 3rd place. He is tied for 8 points with Kenta and Hiroshi Tanahashi. The reason why that bothers me is because all 3 are with 8 points. Evil is still in it, but his 2 losses, or 2 of his 3 losses, were to Kenta and Tanahashi. So why is Evil still in it when he lost to the 2 guys that are tied with him that are now out of it? That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. I agree.
And then on the other side, Moxley's leading it with 10. You've got Naito, who I think was your pick to win it, at 8. Tied.
My picks were Moxley and Okada.
Oh, okay. Well, Moxley and Okada right now are sitting on top, and my pick of Ibushi is right there. He's 2 points out, and my other pick, White, He's gone on a winning streak, and now he is only 2 points out of the top of the B block. Him, Naito, Goto, and Ishii are all tied at 8 points. And then still in it, Robinson and Toru Yano.
So did Moxley actually finally lose a match?
Yeah.
He must have. He only has 10 points.
Yeah, he lost one match against Jay White. Oh, he's lost 2. He lost to Toru Yano too.
Oh, that's bullshit.
In 5 minutes.
Yeah, all of his matches are short. Yano's, I mean, not Moxley's.
Okay, you want to hear who Yano has beat in this tournament?
Well, I know he beat Naito.
He beat Moxley, and he beat Jay White.
Of course he did.
You know, let's take your top 3 stars in this block and have them lose to the joke of the company that was good 15 years ago but isn't anymore. Holy shit, he had a match go 9 minutes. He lasted 9 minutes with Ishii.
Yeah. His World Championship tag partner.
Yeah, but otherwise, Goto, minute 42, Yano, 5 minutes, or I'm sorry, Moxley, 5 minutes, Naito, 3 minutes, Juice, 4 minutes, Takagi, 6 minutes, and Jay White, 3 minutes.
Investment of stamina. What do you want me to tell you?
Unbelievable. But anyway, your 2 horses are leading. The 2 horses are only a couple points out, so we could still both get, well, one of us could get what we wanted.
Yeah, it's not necessarily what I wanted. It's just what I saw happening.
It's too bad that Kenta. I mean, like you said, you've got 4, 5, 6 of our favorites that are out of it now. Kenta, Sonata, ZSJ, Will Ospreay, Shingo, and I've really enjoyed what I've seen out of Lance Archer in this tournament, even though he's losing.
Yeah, I enjoyed what I saw from him too. But the problem is I haven't seen anything since I think night 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah,
when I saw Sonata go 0-3, I was like, "Fuck this shit." So,
it's
or 1-4, I guess he was.
It's hard to comment on it when you haven't seen it, so that makes sense. But I just kind of wanted to give a quick update on where it was at. So, because I'm still, even though I'm not watching all the matches like I set out to do, which I think is just an insane task, and anyone that does it, kudos to you, because I can't. I just can't do it. But just to see the matches that I've seen, the performances I've watched here and there, Lance Archer might be the breakout star of this tournament. He's just not going to be anywhere near where he should be in the ratings with the performances he's been putting on.
So are Zack Sabre Jr. and Will Ospreay both mathematically eliminated too?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I figured. So I was right. I was right that my 3 favorites were just gonna keep getting their asses kicked.
CSJ, Sonata, and Ospreay.
Yeah.
It's tough to see Ospreay with only 2 wins with the year he's been having, because he is easily the wrestler of the year.
Right.
And unfortunately, I don't think there's anybody close. You've got Callahan, who's doing some great shit, but I think he's more of the performer of the year than wrestler of the year. Cody hasn't had enough matches to really be in the discussion with Ospreay. ZSJ has not had a good year at all.
Yeah, I agree with all that. There's actually another bit of news this week that that really disappointed me, honestly. Simply because I sent you, I think it was last weekend, I sent you a link I had found on Twitter where Jay Briscoe was answering the call from Nick Aldis.
Right.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe we'll get Nick Aldis versus Jay Briscoe for the NWA World Title at the 71st anniversary show. But then there was an announcement this week that NWA and ROH have mutually parted ways. So I don't think that's going to be on the table anymore because those 2 companies are no longer have a working agreement.
You know, that's odd because also this week, and I didn't hear that about them parting ways with Ring of Honor, but I've heard now twice of Nick Aldis and Cody getting into little War of the Words type stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I wonder if they broke ties with ROH so that they can work with AEW.
Certainly possible. I mean, the rumor was that the reason for them breaking up was because they're looking for a national TV deal, and of course, that would mean they're competing nationally with Ring of Honor rather than working together with Ring of Honor.
Right. And I think it would be a good move for them with AEW while they're working on their TV deal. They get national exposure where they really didn't have it. I mean, Ring of Honor's got a good product and they have a TV show, but they really don't have national exposure with Ring of Honor.
Well, it's good. It's good for the NWA, but I question what AEW would get out of it. I mean, really, there's only two or three guys, four guys maybe under contract to NWA. So how would that benefit the AEW by having the NWA participate with them?
Well, you get the War Kings, which I think is a really good tag team.
Right. So you have the War Kings, you have Nick Aldis, and you have
James Storm and James Storm.
Okay, so you got five guys.
You also have the three women too that are under contract. No, I guess two because Penelope's now with AEW.
Are either of those women actual draws? Are the War Kings draws?
I don't think they're draws, but I think they are the perfect, like I was saying about teams like SCC and Helico and Jack Evans and Dark Order. These are teams and wrestlers that can be draws. They just need to get in there with the right people to give them the rubs.
Well, yes, I agree. But if the War Kings are under contract with the NWA, so how does AEW benefit by having the War Kings on their show? I mean, as a one-off in their tag team tournament, I can certainly see that. But how else would it benefit AEW to give the rub to an NWA tag team?
I can't answer that. I don't know. Other than using their talent so that they don't have to sign more talent, there's really not much there. But there really wasn't much for Ring of Honor outside of using their talent to fill roster spots.
Yeah, but Ring of Honor needed that. We just talked about how AEW already has a big enough roster that they don't need anything like that.
No, and that's true. I think if it does happen, it would not be a good idea because I think AEW has the perfect amount of wrestlers now. But it just was weird to me that you said that about them parting ways, and then I'd heard a couple of different times this week, between since we were on the air last time, about Cody and Nick Aldis getting into more words, almost like they were setting up for another match at the 71st anniversary.
Yeah, maybe they are. It seems kind of weird to me though that they would rekindle that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I would think Eli Drake challenging for the title would make more sense. Now that they've scrapped the plan, because the original idea for, I think it was Mass Hysteria, was that there was supposed to be some kind of an altercation between Aldis and Marty Scurll, where Scurll would pick a member of Villain Enterprises to be the next challenger for Aldis, and then they scrapped that because the agreement went away.
I think those guys leaving does hurt Ring of Honor.
Well, it hurts NWA too, really.
Yeah, it does, because now the NWA...
at least they had some exposure in Ring of Honor. Where do they have exposure now other than 10 pounds of gold?
And why are they looking for, or how are they thinking they're going to land a national TV deal at this point?
With only 5 guys on the roster and 2 girls.
Yeah. With one tag team, 4 or 3 wrestlers and 2 girls on their roster.
Well, we should say 5 wrestlers, 2 female, 3 male, rather than saying girls versus wrestlers. I guess.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean it like that.
I know. I know you didn't mean it that way. I just wanted to say that we're not downplaying the fact that they have women on their roster.
And that's something we're going to talk about here. I was impressed and then disappointed with the way Tessa was treated.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure. Well, I liked the way that Sammy put her over in his promo, talking about how she's an equal. I like the fact that he wasn't pulling punches at all. I mean, he was out there to hurt her and to give her everything he had. But some of the commentary during it, calling him disgusting for hitting a woman or spitting on a woman or whatever, when we're supposed to be buying in that they're equals, which I was really buying into, that they were equals. And then to have Tommy Dreamer come out at the end to save her and give that little speech about how she's tough as nails and she deserves to be looked at not as a woman's wrestler but a wrestler. It to me, that was just too far, where they're still trying to show the separation without showing it. I thought the way that Sammy treated her in his interview and in their match up until Jake Chris came out was perfect. They looked like equals. He treated her like an equal. And then all of that got thrown away once the commentary started talking about her being a woman and Tommy Dreamer came out with his little speech.
I don't think in his spitting on her had anything to do with her being a woman. I think they'd be saying the same thing no matter who he was spitting on.
No, they said
they call him disgusting all the time.
Yeah, but it was the way that Don Callis went way over the top with it. About how can you do that to a woman? He even said that.
Ah, okay. Again, wasn't really listening to the commentary very much.
It was really hard too because it was so bad. Yeah. It was so quiet.
There wasn't any for the first 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Yeah. So I missed that part. I mean, I remember them saying he was disgusting and talking about his spitting, and then she spit right back at him, and
they ignored it.
Stuff. But I mean, right. I mean, we talk about how Jim Ross has said before that he is the lyrics to the music that the wrestlers are performing in the ring.
Right.
I don't think that the way that Tessa and Sammy were performing had anything to do with her being a woman.
No, they were putting on a great match, and I looked at them as being 100% equals. I was actually.
I mean, if anything, she was wrestling as an underdog, but not as a female underdog.
I was actually looking at it like Lucha Underground, because I think Lucha Underground did it perfectly, where they put the men and women together, and there was no separation, there was nothing. It's just, here's the match you drew this week. And I felt like Sammy and Tessa were putting on, between their promos and the match they were doing, were putting on that kind of match where they were equals, and they were selling each other as equals, and it wasn't oh, she's a woman, he's a man, until Callis said those couple of things. The worst announcer on the planet said a couple of things, and then I really, really didn't like Tommy Dreamer's involvement at the end. I really didn't like
that. I don't understand. I don't understand why you didn't like Tommy's involvement, because to me it was Tommy just putting over a talent. I don't think it had anything to do with her being a female talent.
It was the fact that he kept referring to her as a female talent.
Okay.
I mean, does that make any sense? Okay. I just watched this Gabriel Iglesias special that he did, where he's talking about how he worked for 10 years and he was always called this Latino comic, and he always felt like he was separated because here you don't call Jerry Seinfeld the Jewish comic, you don't call Chris Rock the African American comic. And he said it wasn't until he actually went to Saudi Arabia where he actually felt like a true American comic, because he was referred to as an American comic in Saudi Arabia. So to me, it's kind of the same thing, where you're constantly calling her a female wrestler. You don't call Sami Callihan a male wrestler, you call him a wrestler. Just like you don't call Jerry Seinfeld a Jewish comic or Chris Rock an African American comic, you call them comics. When you put that label on there and say female wrestler, that's where the line is drawn. And when you keep putting that connotation out there, it's, even if it's not meant to, it does downgrade that performance and make it look like it is separate when it shouldn't be.
Okay, so I see what you're saying, but I would also point out that if you don't point out that she's a female, then what she is doing means nothing. You know, I mean, you have to point out that she's, the first female in Impact Wrestling to be wrestling for a chance at and one of the first ever in wrestling in period to be wrestling for a chance at a world championship.
Well, except at Lucha Underground.
She's the first ever. That's why I said almost.
Okay.
And she's the first ever Impact woman to wrestle in the main event of a review. And now she's wrestling in the main event of an Impact special. So, I mean, I think if you don't at least mention that fact, then you're downplaying her accomplishments.
Mention it, yes. Put it over the way that they did. No. You mention it. You say, maybe Josh Matthews actually did it perfectly in the beginning, saying, she's the first female to ever wrestle for an Impact World title. That's all that needed to be said. From that point forward, she's just a wrestler. You don't have to keep pushing that it's a female, and how could you do that to a female? And you're doing what you can for women's wrestling and all this stuff. It's like, no, you put it out there. You said this is a first, and she should be respected for that. But then at that point, drop the female status and just go with your wrestler. She didn't need to be consistently referred to as a female wrestler throughout the match. And then the post-match. Just call her a wrestler. Just call them all wrestlers.
See now, the way that you're talking is the way that I refuse to think. So I mean, I refuse to look at WWE and say, "Oh, Charlotte's one of the best total wrestlers and women in the organization." She's one of the best women's wrestlers, maybe. But I don't think that she's as good as the male wrestlers. I think Tessa is a different story, honestly.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm not saying that we should all of a sudden throw Dana Brooks in that conversation, but Tessa's a different breed. Taya Valkyrie's a different breed. I wouldn't
mind breeding with Tessa. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I mean, they're different, and I do believe that Becky Lynch and Charlotte are capable of putting on great matches with men as well. I think they are a step ahead. I think Paige was probably better at it. It's too bad that she was injured, because I think she was where Tessa is on being able to compete with men. Probably cruiserweights, but still she was on that level to compete with men.
Well, I mean, we don't like to talk about WWE on this show, but I think they really did miss a trick by not having Becky Lynch challenge. What the fuck's his
Kofi.
name? No, not Kofi. What the fuck's his name?
Which
God,
title?
I can't think of his name. The balding dude that was the general manager for a while that we used to like and now we don't like anymore.
Oh, Kurt Angle? Oh no, Baron Corbin.
Baron Corbin. Because Corbin hit her with the End of Days on a pay-per-view, and the next night she just came out there kind of limping. But I think that they missed a trick by her not having a match against him.
Right, because she's been calling herself the man for over a year now.
Right.
So, put her... She goes out there and cuts promos about how she puts on better matches than the men, but they don't have her in matches against the men.
Yeah, and I would have had her lose also, but I would have had her put up a tough fight doing so.
Right, exactly, because she's the underdog.
You can't have her in her first match against a man beat the number one contender for the championship.
Right. I mean, there's different, there's different situations.
Yeah.
And I do think, and I mean, you can call it, I don't, and I guess I don't know what your thinking is about it, but, and I do really, really, really like the ending of this match, because it put Tessa over. It made it look like this is what I was going on again about how those two in the match they told and the storyline leading up and all the interviews, everything, put them on an equal level. And it took cheating by Sami Callihan and interference by Jake Crist to beat her. To me, that would...
Here was my thought process in the match. She went for the Magnum several times in the match. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, so she already hit the Magnum on him at Slammiversary and he kicked out. So how am I supposed to believe that she's going to hit the Magnum on him and he's going to be pinned with it? So then they do the Codebreaker followed by the second rope code breaker, followed by the Magnum. And that is more believable because she hits him 3 times with it then.
Right.
And he's dead to rights in the middle of the ring. And she's got him beat. And then Jay Chris comes out and interferes. Sammy has to use the belt to beat her. And he's the number 1 contender. Whereas, like you said, he went over, she got over again.
Right,
and I thought
exactly.
that was actually perfect booking because it goes from he beats her pretty much clean. I mean, they both cheated, so in essence it bounces out. He beats her clean. To he has to cheat to beat her because she's actually got him dead to rights in the middle of the ring. And now the next time that they face each other, maybe Sammy will have the title shot, and she finally gets her comeuppance and beats him.
Or she'll beat him in a number 1 contender match where, kind of like a proving ground match.
Well, that's what this match was a number 1 contenders match.
Right, but I'm just saying once Sammy has the title, then she wants to challenge. Then she goes to challenge him for the title, and they throw roadblocks because he knows she can beat him. So he throws roadblocks and say, "You got to beat me to get a shot at the title." And then she goes out there and beats him. I can see her first win against Sammy being something not a title win. If they put the title on her for the first win, that's going a little overboard. But I definitely see Tessa as a world title holder at Impact in the next year.
Well, I just see her stepping up to him saying, "You know what? I may not have ever beat you, but I give you the toughest fights of your life."
Right. And kudos to Sammy. I don't think anybody else on the planet could have put Tessa over the way that he did. Like I said, when I'm watching this match and the last match and all the promos and everything they've done against each other, I look at them as 2 equals, and that's a lot on Sammy because Sammy has played it that way. The way they wrote their match, the way that they conducted their promos, the way that they showed each other mutual respect and all this stuff, the way that he cheated to win, it all did everything to put Tessa on his level. So you've got to give a lot of kudos to Sammy for his performance.
Right, and the other thing is his stature. I mean, we know how much the Impact crowd really hates Sammy, or at least they did until the beginning of this year, and yet they still voted him the rest of the year for 2018.
Right, exactly.
And so he keeps on keeping on. He keeps on having these great matches, these great performances. He's still hated for the most part by the crowd, although it's starting to turn a bit. I think especially before he added Fulton to his team. But so I mean, I don't think anybody else in the company that really could have put her, that was actually in a position to put her over, much less could have done it quite as well as he did.
I think other people could have put her over, just not to the level that he did. I think that's where the difference came in. I don't know that there's another person out there that could have put Tessa over to the level that Sammy did.
Well, let's think about this. I mean, who else really could have put her over the way that he did? I mean, Johnny Impact maybe could have, but he's gone. Are you really going to have Brian Cage put her over? Because Brian Cage is an excellent moves performer, and I love watching his matches, but he's not a great wrestler.
No, he's not. He's a good big move performer.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Michael Elgin is amazing, but he just doesn't have the pedigree and Impact yet. Well,
not only that, he doesn't have the mic skills or the character development to do what Sammy did. A lot of the way that Sammy put Tessa over was just his character work. I mean, it was. In fact, I would argue to say it's more his character work and his vocal skills than it is his actual wrestling ability that put Tessa over. I don't think Johnny Nitro could have done that, or Johnny Impact, or whatever the hell his name is now. I don't. Yeah, I don't think he could have done that quite like he did. He's got that arrogant personality, but he doesn't have that tough guy attitude like Sammy does.
Speaking of arrogant personalities, Jake Chris should be X Division champion practically forever.
Yeah, and never lose that belt. No, his character has gone. His character has gone stratospheric right now.
Yeah, I agree.
When he cut in on Sammy's promo, and now he's calling himself the Golden Draw and everything. He has reached a whole new level. he was there with his wrestling ability, and now his promo skills and his character work has reached where his wrestling ability is.
Agreed. I think he's going to be an amazing ex-champion. I think he's going to be amazing developing that character. I loved it, seeing that. And I loved the whole thing where Sammy told him it was stupid because the belt's silver, and he said, no, it's white gold. and Cal's like, yeah, he's right, it is white gold.
Yeah, and I just love the way that that his character is developed. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite wrestlers right now. He's getting to that status where I can't miss him.
Well, and the great thing is in that scramble match that he had, you didn't even see all of his great stuff, and he was a minute.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
didn't use his elbows in the corner. Didn't use his series of kicks.
It was a lot of cutters.
Just great, great character performance in there. And I don't know. I'm really enjoying what Jay Chris.
Yeah, he spent, unlike his match we saw at Slammiversary, where he was that cerebral guy and he had all of the signature moves and, pinning the guy that was on the bottom of that surfboard and all that stuff was perfect. It was great character work, and you didn't see any of that stuff in this, but you saw somebody who was a good performer who was going above and beyond to save his title.
Exactly. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that character develops for him.
I am too. I really like it. And I love the fact, I think it's going to eventually come down to Chris versus Sammy. Because I think eventually Sammy's going to get sick of him cutting him off and doing that stuff.
Well, yeah, I think it is too. I'm just what I'm kind of pondering is whether that's going to be for the, whether that's going to be because the entire OBE turns against Sammy, or if it's just, those two guys have a falling out.
I could see it actually OVE turning against Jake. Because
I guess Dave's been pretty frustrated with him lately too, hasn't he?
Yeah, and so is that other dude,
Madman Fulton.
Yeah, I mean they've all shown frustration with Jake. Jake is clearly the fan favorite out of the group. So his addition to a face would be almost immediately. He wouldn't have to win over the crowd or anything like that. Where if OVE turns on Sammy's got a lot of work to do to win the crowd over.
That's true. I thought the way that actually speaking of Jake in the main event, I thought the way that happened was really interesting because Sammy had said earlier, "You're not interfering in my match," and then when Jake interfered in the match, he was happy. He was very happy that he interfered. So I wonder if it was a plan all along. And maybe we'll even hear about that, or if it was something where Sammy told him not to do it and he did it anyway. And in the moment, Sammy was like, "Okay, I'll take advantage of it, but you're gonna have to pay for it later."
Well, I think the latter is probably the more is probably the better storyline. I think when you look at Jake just kind of going off and doing his own thing, ignoring the leader and so on, and he runs down there and causes the interference. And then Sammy, who's not necessarily happy about it, but he capitalizes on the situation.
Did I also hear them say something on the show about the reason that Dave wasn't able to be there was because of something that Jake had done?
The audio was bad. I must have missed that part. I caught a lot of stuff, but
yeah, I thought they had said that like right after the promo with Sammy and Jake in it.
That's possible. I know they did say your theory at the end of the show, which is why I think a swerve is probably a better idea. But Josh Matthews blurted out that about how this was their plan all along.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, just because Josh Matthews said it doesn't make it true.
Good point.
There's times where if he said water is wet, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, he really is not good. Although I will give him credit, and Don for probably one of the funniest lines I've heard in commentary in a very long time. Madison Rain's coming to the ring for her match, and Josh is going off on her and her attitude. I just don't understand where her attitude is coming from. And Don Callis just didn't skip a beat, just immediately, maybe she's not happy at home. I thought that was, and then of course Josh looks at him. Do you have any insight on that? He's like, no. I just hear rumors. Maybe she's with this skinny, scrawny, geeky guy. It was a really great exchange. In fact, if you get a chance, I go back and watch just that 2-minute exchange that they had. It was great. It was perfect on Cal's.
And if you don't get that, listener, Madison Rain is married to Josh Matthews.
Yeah. It was
and somehow they had a kid together. I don't get it.
I really, that's the one thing I will give Josh credit for, is he does a great job of putting her over as a heel and not bringing in any reference to their personal life.
He does.
I think he does a great job of that. But Dawn to feed off that was great. I loved that. That part was fantastic. Getting back to that exhibition's title scramble match, I was a really big fan of Danny Limelight in that match. I was too. He was really good.
I'd loved him to be signed to the Rex division.
He outshone Trey, which is hard to do.
Yeah, he really did, and that was amazing. I mean, he had a lot of stuff that you would expect to see from like Will Ospreay, and then some other stuff that I'd never even seen before. So
yeah, he did have some moves that just kind of caught me out of nowhere that I was really shocked by. Speaking of moves that I'd never seen before, that knee, I don't know what you would even call it, that knee driver that Sammy gave to Tessa, where he set her up like a pile driver, only backwards, and dropped her on her knees.
Oh, right. Yeah, when he caught her out of the Magnum and did that, yeah.
Yeah. That was clever, too.
Yeah.
Something
that reminds me of that, because that set up the figure 4 spot, which was the one part of the match where I was like, oh, come on. Where she like very easily turned him over, and I just...
Right.
That I had a lot of that I just couldn't buy.
I just blew past it. I didn't even pay that close of attention to that. It did kind of a second. I got a second there going, okay. Now I've seen guys that are much bigger than you put that on much smaller men than Sammy and not be able to turn it, but you were able to.
Yeah.
It kind of threw me for a loop too, but then I just quickly forgot about it, moved on. I thought the rest of
the way that she started doing it, I could have bought, but she did it way too quickly, because she was like trying to do like a kind of like a rocking motion to rock him over, but it was just as quickly as it happened. There was no way she had the time to build up that kind of momentum to do it.
Yeah, I mean she rocked him over on the second rock.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit sketchy.
And it was clear that Sammy helped her do it, which kind of took me out of the match a bit. I mean, not for very long, but at that particular moment. So.
Ace Austin is another guy that I just, every time I see the guy, I just want to see more. He's really talented.
He is. I just would really like to see him put everything together in a package in a longer than like a 5 or 10 minute match.
Yeah.
Where he's not having to compete against 3 other guys to get some notice,
but they've been. That was one thing I noticed here too, is they didn't really remember the last match. My biggest complaint was there were too many matches that were the same. They were all no contest, no countouts, hurricane style matches. There wasn't a single weapon used in this match until the main event. The only hurricane-style match was that X Division Championship. Everything else on this was a regular wrestling match, and I thought it was a much better show. I mean, it would have been okay if they'd sprinkled in maybe a hardcore match for that 6-man tag that Steiner was in, instead of giving him 5 minutes on the mic, which was some of the worst stuff I've ever heard. But it was impressive, but almost kind of unbelievable that we just watched Slammiversary, where every match was a disaster, and then this one didn't. Well, it was too much. It was just too much. Falls counting anywhere. Every match had somebody bleeding because of weapons being used. It just got to be too much. But this one was kind of a refreshing pace, and I really expected the Edwards Elgin match to turn bloody, and it never really did.
No, but boy, was it a brawl.
Yes, it was. In fact, that might have been my favorite match of the night.
Oh, it was my favorite match of the night, easily.
Yeah, It was great.
They
just beat the hell out of each other.
They beat the hell out of each other. It was almost a rematch from the last Impact special where it was actually scheduled to be Elgin, or yeah, it was supposed to be scheduled to be Elgin against Edwards, and Moose ended up being added into the match. So we finally got Elgin versus Edwards, and it was a hard affair, and Edwards, ended up losing. So.
And this was a whole new Eddie Edwards too. This was, he was always that they always claimed he was this great technical wrestler. Everything he did was great technically. And then he became a crazy guy, and all he did was brawl. This was a great mix of the two, where he was brawling and standing toe-to-toe with just a ridiculous powerhouse, and also mixing in his ridiculous knowledge of technical wrestling. I just thought...
because usually when a guy goes crazy, they kind of, for some reason, even though they go crazy, not stupid, they forget how to wrestle.
Right.
And really this was a prime example of like how a crazy person should wrestle, some brawling, and then also like remembering every once in a while, oh yeah, I know how to do this.
Yeah, and I thought this was the best match from Eddie Edwards I've seen in probably a year since we started watching Impact again.
It might be the best I've ever seen Eddie Edwards.
I can't say that because I'm sure. Well, yeah, it would have to be the. No, he had some great matches with his tag team.
Yeah, I would say, what? He actually had a match that I really enjoyed, at least. I know a lot of people didn't, against Davey Richards at Best in the World 2011 for the world title. But
yeah, I never saw that.
But I would say it's his best singles match I've seen in a long time.
He had, I can't say it's his best match I've ever seen because I saw some of the stuff that Beer Money and the Wolves did together.
Right, and I'm separating out singles matches and tag matches.
As far as single matches, because I wasn't watching Ring of Honor back then, so I can't comment on that. So, but as far as single matches go, this is the best I've seen Eddie Edwards yet.
Yeah, and I wasn't watching when he was the Ring of Honor, the Impact World Champion.
I wasn't either, so I can't comment on that. But since I started watching,
that motherfucker has won the triple crown in both Impact and Ring of Honor. Unbelievable.
Isn't he the only other one to do it other than Austin Aries?
No, he's the only one to do it. Austin Aries didn't do it.
I thought Austin Aries. No, you're right. He didn't hold the tag team.
Was never the pure champion or the TV champion.
Was he a tag champion in Ring of Honor?
Yeah, with Roderick Strong.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
He's a two-time ROH World Champion, and he won the tag titles with Roderick Strong.
Okay, yeah, so you're right. Yeah, then he is the only one to do it.
As they say that AJ Styles has been the world champion wherever he's competed, but he actually never won the ROH World title.
He was never officially signed to Ring of Honor. He just kind of showed up on per diem.
Oh, that's possible. I didn't know that for sure. He was their pure champion.
Yeah, but he was never. From what I understand, is he was signed to TNA. He had an exclusive contract to TNA where they would let him go and work independents, and they still considered independent one-offs, and they still considered Ring of Honor an independent type organization at that time.
That makes sense.
So he was able to go in there on a per diem basis and wrestle. But everywhere he's been under contract, well, no, because he wasn't with WCW and he was under contract with them. He had just signed a contract with them when they folded.
Yeah, can you really count that though?
Yes. He signed the contract.
I suppose. But it wasn't like they were going to sign. It wasn't like NJPW where they were going to sign him and then immediately put the world title on.
Right.
He was a young guy, a young up and coming guy at the time.
Yeah, and Austin Aries is another one that's done that everywhere he's gone.
Well, except for WWE.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Why? He was under contract.
Nothing in WWE counts.
Let me ask you something, Jeff. Isn't it 20?
That's what I thought.
Why is Scott Steiner still getting booked?
Why is Scott Steiner given a mic? Did you see how tatted up he is to disguise that his muscles aren't big anymore?
Not only did I see that and get to hear him on this show, but I also got to hear him on one of the episodes of World Class Revolution I unfortunately watched.
Oh my God!
So
Why is that dude?
So I got to see Scott Steiner booked and talking on a mic and winning a match with a Steiner recliner twice in less than a week.
Ugh. He was doing math. He was babbling about freaks. He was. I didn't. When he started doing math, my brain just shut off. That was the worst Mike promo I've ever heard.
And you've heard Sid Vicious.
And Ultimate Warrior.
Yep. And you know, if he really got to go back to his hotel with Jordan Grace, that's just ridiculous. Hopefully that was a complete work.
Oh, it had to have been. Scott, I don't know. That was some. The match itself was okay. I don't know what to think of Gentleman Jervis yet. But I thought Dickie Meyer and Ryan Taylor were decent wrestlers.
Oh, I thought Jervis was awesome.
I just don't know what to make of him yet.
I made a bunch of humor out of him, and I laughed, and I thought it was fun.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, and Petey Williams and Jordan Grace were just their normal, awesome selves. But Scott Steiner, just don't ever let that man have a mic again.
Well, why even book him at all? I don't get it.
He's a name.
Yeah, but did he really draw tickets wrestling the fifth match of the card in the 6-man?
Not in this, no. I mean, nobody came to see Scott Steiner.
That was my point. So why book him? I'm sure it wasn't cheap.
I think it's just to give Petey Williams and Jordan Grace something to do right now.
Okay.
Bring back the little Petey Pump gimmick again.
Yeah, and I don't know their relative ages, but I think he's been wrestling since like 1988. So this is like, it got to be like his 30-some year in the business,
Yeah, Scott's been wrestling that since easily the 80s.
Yeah,
so he's pushing Ric Flair territory as far as time sticking around. He just needs one more decade to wrestle and to match Flair. And the difference was...
And we'll use the word wrestle loosely.
Yeah, I mean, Flair still wrestled. Scott Steiner... I don't know that Scott ever wrestled.
Oh, he did. The Steiners were a great tag team.
When they were a tag team, he was great. I loved how inventive he was. I loved all of his suplexes. But once he became the big bad booty daddy, it all became more about character than in-ring. And his in-ring was just terrible, especially by the time he was in WWE.
He just got too big. That was his problem. He got too big to be able to do his moves. Although I will say I was impressed. He could still do a top rope Frankensteiner in this one.
Yeah, because he lost all that muscle mass. He's not too big anymore.
But he also had to hold on to the pole outside the ring to balance himself to do it. Which is
did he? I didn't catch that, but yeah, I don't know. This was a match that never should have been on the card, and same thing with that first match, that opening match.
Oh, with PP Ray.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's the team I was talking about that should not show up in AEW.
Well, unless Ray is going to be a librarian assistant, I guess.
And you and I both think Peter Avalon's a fantastic heel, but in this role as a babyface, he was just awful.
He's not good as a babyface. He can't wrestle like a babyface. He's just... This was terrible, and Chris Bay and Watts were not any help. This was like it was a tryout match, like we were witnessing a tryout dark match from some independent wrestlers who they plucked out, or local independent wrestlers that they plucked off the street and said, "Come do a dark match for us."
Yeah, I agree.
This was not good, and the fact that Peter Avalon was even in it just shocks me.
And did you see what move they won the match with?
Yeah.
A double suplex. Woohoo!
Yeah. It's just not good. luckily that X Division match came out and got the crowd back into it.
Yeah, because PP Ray was not good, and B and Watts were worse than them.
Yeah, which is bad. That's just not good. And I don't know. I don't really like Reno Scum.
You don't?
No,
I really enjoyed Lust of the Legend.
He's hit and miss for me. The other guy I can't stand. I can't think of what the other guy's name is.
Adam Thornstowe.
Yeah, I just don't like him. In fact, when they first debuted on Impact, I was like, what the fuck? Who are these guys? They brought them out like they were some big deal, and they're green. They're a really green team.
See, now, they had mentioned them being on Impact before, but I don't remember ever seeing them on Impact.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did a one-off where they were brought in for this tag match, and they were Josh was building up about how they're not under contract, and they're showing us for a contract, but these are the best guys out of Arizona and or Nevada or wherever they're from, and talking about how they're the top tag team and one of the top tag teams in the world and the way they did their. I didn't like them then. I didn't like them last night when I watched this. I was just not a fan of them at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the look of Lester the Legend. I like the name, and I enjoyed what he was doing in the ring. So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm in love with the guy, but I did enjoy him.
I think it was when you put him in the ring against guys as talented. Like, if this had been a Reno Scum versus Rich Swann Willie Mack match, I might not have noticed it as much. But when you put him in the ring with guys that are talented as Ethan Page and I hate that other guy's name. Josh Alexander, yeah. When you put him in the ring against a team that's as good as the North, you really see how not good they are.
I could see Josh Alexander being my favorite wrestler in a year or two.
If he breaks out, I can see, and I was thinking the same thing about Ethan Page. I could easily see him, now that he got his run in the singles world with his, Matt Seidel crap that he did. He showed some character. He made a great heel turn to team up with Alexander, and now he does just really good heel work.
He does. I'm always partial to guys that are badasses in character and can actually back it up with great pro wrestling. And I think Alexander fits that role for me, kind of like Lesnar did back in 2002, or like Angle did for years. Alexander, I think, has a great upside.
Alexander does have that more intense side than Page does, but I think Page does have great in-ring ability. I think he's got a great look. He's got a great personality. I think his character work as a heel has really developed a lot in the last year.
When I look at Ethan Page, I can see him being like the next Bobby Roode, and I was never as high on Bobby Roode as a lot of people were.
And Bobby Roode was one of my favorites, probably one of my top 5 wrestlers there for a long, long time.
Right.
Time.
I know all the debates I had, not necessarily with you, but with the Mystic and Miz Fan about when it was the Dirty Heels. They were always big fans of Bobby Roode, and I was always much higher on Austin Aries.
Yeah, and I remember that It Factor run. I used to argue with you all the time about how great Bobby Roode is and how he definitely deserves to be in a higher position than he is.
Yeah, and I enjoyed his Glorious character too, and I still think he gave Shinsuke Nakamura his best matches he's had in WWE.
Yeah.
But I think my problem was I always felt he was booked higher than guys that were better than him in Impact.
See, and I always felt like he wasn't booked as high as he should be. I felt like there were other guys walking in.
He was the world champion for like 10 months or something.
Yeah, but there were other guys walking in like Bobby Lashley who were 7-time world champions and constantly getting pushed, where Bobby Roode was thrown back into tag teams.
Would you rather have 7 championships that last like 4 months combined, or would you rather have a 10-month reign as the world champion?
Well, obviously a 10-month reign, but he also, never got a sniff of it again after that.
Yeah, because he was stuck. Because he was stuck into the tag team with Aries.
Yeah, and then after that tag team broke up, he was back in there with James Storm.
That really was kind of weird booking, wasn't it?
Yeah. You give a guy a 10-month reign, you literally ride the company wave that he was giving you, because he was the top of the company. He was what people were tuning in to watch. His It Factor character was one of the best I've ever seen. And then Austin Aries comes in and they made a great 1-2 combination, a lot like Daniels and Kazarian did. But then when they started being on a tag team all the time, and then Austin Aries leaves, so they throw him back with James Storm to reform Beer Money. It was just like, okay, why is this guy not back at the top of the... Oh, that's right, because Bobby Lashley just came back. So you got to push Bobby now.
Well, of course you do, because Bobby Lashley's just amazing at everything he does. That's called sarcasm.
Yeah, I know. I caught that. I will give him credit. He was a whole lot better in Impact than he was in any of his runs in WWE.
That's a really low bar.
Exactly. So I'm not saying that he never should have been the world beater that he was.
No. Yeah, that's enough about Bobby Lashley. I was just pointing out that I see a lot of Bobby Roode, I should say, in Ethan Page.
Which is great for Ethan Page. I mean, that's what I was talking about how he could be a future star if he gets everything put together.
Yeah, and I think people have time about him. It's just not necessarily my type of. I don't know. It's weird because I think maybe like Ric Flair kind of soured me on a lot of that type of heel tactic stuff.
Yeah, and that's possible.
Because I think Ric Flair is so overrated these days, and I really don't want to see another heel like Flair, you know. And I think that's a lot of what I didn't like about the It Factor.
I think it's like Hogan and Dusty. You're never going to see another face do that as good as them, so you don't want to see somebody else even try. You get the same thing with Flair. Flair was the prototypical heel. He's what every heel is based off of. So you're never going to see anybody do it better, so you don't want to see somebody mimic him. I mean, it makes sense.
No, that's not what I was saying at all. Because like I said, I think he was overrated.
Oh, I just don't understand that.
I've said before. I think we've had this discussion before. But I told you I think he had 3 great years, and the rest of it was just kind of smoke and mirrors. And
Possible.
One of those great years, he had opponents named Ricky Steamboat and Terry Funk. So how could you fuck that up?
I don't know. I still think he's still one of my top 3 all time.
Yeah, and I know I'm in the minority when I say that. It's just that, to me, he was never as great as people think he is.
And it might be because I grew up on him that I gave him a lot more freedom. Because by the end of his WCW run, the guy was done. He should not have wrestled anymore. But they brought him
and that
back
might be
for
part of it too. The whole Batman thing about you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
Yeah, and then he came back and was tag team champion and made a run at the title, and WWE just soaked him for everything he could, or they could get out of him. And then he had that great match against Shawn Michaels, which was the perfect way to go out, and then he shows up on Impact like 6 months later, wrestling for them.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it was like, okay, Rick, enough's enough. You should have retired in '99, and had you gone out in '99, you would have been considered one of the greatest ever. But you stuck around. Like Brett Favre's another one. Brett Favre statistically, is one of the greatest of all time, but because he kept retiring and coming back, a lot of people soured on him.
Yeah, and I think that probably is a lot of it with me because I do remember when his DVDs with WWE were coming out, I was always buying them upon the first release date.
Right.
So I wanted to see that stuff at least at that time, but I do think that a lot of it is simply that he just stayed around too long.
And to me, he's top three. It's AJ, Brett, and Ric Flair are my top three. And then you go a little bit. 4 would of course be Jericho. 5, I don't know where I'd go from there.
Excuse me. I think a lot of people would have Shawn Michaels in their top 5, but I don't think I would either.
And see, I was never a huge fan of Shawn's. I thought he did great work, but I also saw him lose his cool in matches all the time. And to me, that when he would turn around and verbally yell at a guy when he's a face, and he would yell at a guy for missing a spot, I was never able to enjoy his matches because of stuff like that.
Well, was that before or after he cleaned himself up?
It was before, but it was still the fact that most of his WrestleMania moments and stuff were before he cleaned himself up. When he came back, they brought him back as a joke. They made it out where you can't wrestle anymore. And then all of a sudden he went from you can't wrestle anymore to main eventing against The Undertaker 2 straight years.
No, it was a little bit slower than that. Yeah, I mean, he couldn't wrestle, then he wrestled against Triple H. I mean, it wasn't until 2009 he wrestled against The Undertaker. He came back in 2002.
I thought he wrestled The Undertaker. Oh, yeah, because he retired Flair and then wrestled 2 matches against The Undertaker.
Right.
And he had that horrible match against Hogan, where another spot where he ruined a match. He ruined a pay-per-view match for his own ego.
I love that match.
But the fact that he was so mad that Hogan wouldn't give him his win back later on, that he purposely went out and sabotaged the match. And that was after he was clean.
Did he sabotage the match? Or did he make it Hogan look amazing by pumping all over the place for him?
He made it a comedy act. He oversold stuff so much, and you could just see the exasperation on Hogan's face, that it even then ruined the match for me.
The night of, you're saying it ruined the match for you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I was watching it, it was so unbelievable the way that he was bumping around for him. I mean, he'd slap him and Shawn would go flying across the ring. Those kicks in the corner where he was bouncing 3 feet off the rope. That stuff was just embarrassing.
Again, was it embarrassing or did it make Hogan look awesome?
No, it was embarrassing. Because we knew in 2004 that Hogan wasn't that strong of a guy anymore. If that had been 1988 Hogan, it would have been more believable. But at that time, when he was just he was well past his prime, it just wasn't. I don't know. I didn't like it.
Ah, that's fine. I enjoyed it, but I have heard that opinion, like, lots, is that, as the endorsement of how Michaels could be petty sometimes and things like that.
Well, he is a hell of a wrestler.
Yeah, he is.
And he's in my top.
And I wasn't saying I would have him in my top 3. I'm just saying a lot of people, I think, would have him there.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably in my top 10 because he did put on some instant classics. But, petty stuff.
I hate that term.
Instant classic?
Yeah.
I use it just because of Christian Cage. The instant classic Christian Cage. But no, he did put on some matches that, are considered some of the greatest of all time. And they are matches that if I ever went back and we did a retrospective of him, I would absolutely be able to find a dozen matches that I would want to watch forever. But he also did some crap and was petty and, played a heel when he was supposed to be playing a face just to get himself over. And, granted, a lot of this was during his drug years, but then, like I said, the Hogan match is a perfect example of him still doing it after he was cleaned up.
Yeah.
So
I guess if that's your opinion of him in that match, I can certainly see that. But I do hold it against him that he wouldn't wrestle as a heel when he came back.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, there was that brief heel turn against Hogan, and that was it. But But to me, I mean, when you're putting your religious beliefs over your character, that's just bullshit.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that granted, the guy's a great guy from what I understand now. He's really cleaned himself up, and he's, devoted and everything, and he's a great guy now. But there was just so many petty things that he did throughout his career that I just couldn't.
Yeah, he's such a great guy that he took a payday to go back and wrestle in Saudi Arabia, right after they had.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Right after he went on everywhere and said, "I will absolutely never wrestle again."
Yeah, so but he wrestled in Saudi Arabia for a big payday.
Yep.
Right after they had killed that Turkish
journalist. The journalist.
Yeah, the journalist. Yeah.
And
so,
it was also right after he declared that he would never wrestle again.
Yeah. And when he did come back, was it a match anybody wanted to see?
No.
So. Yeah. So I lost a lot of respect for him when he came back and did that.
But all right, anything else on this card stick out for you?
I don't think so. I mean, the women's match was fine, but it wasn't great. Rhino against Moose was just a match. So no, I don't think so.
I did. Yeah, the two women's matches were just kind of there and nothing really exciting. I mean, Taya Valkyrie walking out on it was kind of an interesting move, but that was about the extent of those two. And then, of course, the commentary between Callis and Josh Matthews in the Madison Rain match. The Rhino match, the only thing of note of that was Rhino's promo before, where he just went off the rails. Swearing about being in, how he's not getting paid to be in fucking catering and things like that.
Yeah.
I had
forgotten about that, but yeah, that is true.
I thought that might have been a little too far. But it was all right, especially considering he's supposed to be the guy playing the face in this. But it was, other than that, that's all that really stuck out there.
Yeah, and I thought it was. I mean, I realized it's Rhino's debut match, but I thought it was weird to put him over Moose, who they're trying to build up as a big star.
Well, yeah, they're trying to build him up as Mr. Impact.
And yet he loses
to Rhino.
Fucking Rhino.
To a guy who was the biggest thing in the world in 1999.
Right.
When Moose was in junior high?
Probably. And I mean, to be fair, he was also supposed to be the big thing in 2005 for TNA, but that didn't work out.
No, because he I don't know how to say it about Rhino. I know he's got amazing talent. He sells like nobody. He's one of the best sellers on the planet. He knows how to get a crowd invested. His promo work is okay, but I don't think he has really ever developed his character. I mean, this guy's been in the wrestling business now for over 20 years, and I don't think he's ever really developed this character.
That is excellent points. Yeah, he never has. Because really, what is his character? Big guy that runs
exactly.
over people?
That's exactly it. All he does is he gores people. He's just a really big guy, really short and a stocky guy who runs over people, and that's his whole character. He's never developed a character. That
doesn't make it very hard to care about him, doesn't it?
I think that's probably the one reason why I've never really cared about him. I mean, his mic skills have never been, the deciding factor for me. I loved Chris Benoit, and he was never good on the mic. Well, he was, but he was in a different way. And there's other people throughout history that I've just never really been a fan of them on the mic. Like Bret Hart is a perfect example of that. He is terrible on the mic. But he had such a great character. He was so charismatic, and he was able to work the crowd and put on great matches that he was a guy that is my second favorite wrestler of all time. AJ Styles got a lot of heat for not knowing how to work the mic there for a long time, and he's really developed over the last couple of years, but for a long time that was his weak point. So not being good on the mic is not what kills it for me, but the fact that Rhino has developed a character is what bothers me.
Yeah, that's actually a really good insight by you. I had not considered that, but I guess I really don't think too deeply about Rhino either. So. Because he's never given me a reason to, like you just pointed out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you never had a reason to invest in the guy.
No, I didn't.
Which is sad because he's incredibly talented.
Yeah, in the ring he's incredibly talented, but like you said, what is there really to sink your teeth into with him?
Exactly. It's just another guy.
Yeah, so I mean, this was... I disagree with Jeff that this was better than Slammiversary, but your mileage may vary. You know, certainly worth a watch if you get a chance to watch it.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think it was better than Slammiversary. I thought Slammiversary had much better match quality. I was just worn out with the whole, 5 straight matches of anything goes. I think the last 4 matches of Slammiversary were better than anything that was on this card.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And if it wasn't for the fact that those first 5 matches were just the same match, just with different people, I think I really could have gotten into the Eddie Edwards Killer Cross match, and I think I could have really gotten into a couple of the other matches.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
So I put words in your mouth, and I apologize for that.
That's all right. You do it all the time. I'm okay with it.
Well, no, I honestly thought you said that earlier. Is that you liked this show better than you liked Slammiversary?
Well, what I meant by that, and I probably did say that because I've been known to say shit like that all the time. But what I meant by that was that just the fact that it was a wrestling show and not a circus, where I felt like the first 5 matches of Slammiversary was just about, hey, how many people can we get talking? This was just people going out and putting on wrestling matches. Even when you look at like Eddie Edwards, who should have been the hardcore match, wasn't. And I'm
just going to say it should have been because I really liked what they put together.
Oh, I loved what they put together. But when you look at Eddie Edwards on paper with the way he's been over the last year, he's become the new Jimmy Havoc.
Oh,
everything is and don't get me wrong, Jimmy's really impressed me the last couple of matches he's had on AEW.
Right. Yeah, and
but,
I think you and I both feel the same way about that.
But I mean, there for a long time, I remember saying to you, I just want to see him wrestle a match. I don't want it all to be hardcore matches, and that's the way Eddie Edwards has been for the last year. Everything's a hardcore match.
Yes, it has.
So it was refreshing to see that it wasn't, but if I was going to put a hardcore match anywhere, it would have been there.
Well, and it wasn't a hardcore match in the sense that they didn't use a lot of weapons, but it was a hardcore match in the sense that it was like a never open weight style match.
Yeah, that's it. That's the best way. It was like a strong style match,
and it was a lot of fun because of it.
And it was nice that they they even pointed that out. Josh Matthews even pointed that out, that he felt like this was going to be a strong style match.
Yeah, I'm surprised he knows what strong style is.
Well, he's got Don Callis sitting next to him, so he's probably got a lot of notes being passed to him saying, "Say this now."
Yeah, well, there's also the sense that his wife probably shows him some strong style in the bedroom. So.
Well, according to Dawn, she's not happy there, so.
Well, no, but she has to take it out on him, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, well yeah, exactly. So, I guess you got me there. And that's a joke for anyone listening that just tuned in.
Is it?
Well, as far as I know, I don't have any proof.
Okay. So we'll work on that for next time, getting you guys proof of Josh and Addison's marriage.
No, I'm leaving that alone. That's not. I'm not. No. So I don't know. Do you have
There's
anything
no time
else?
to get squeamish on me, Jeff.
Do you have anything else, or?
I was just going to say that we're well aware that this is a big wrestling weekend coming up. This coming Friday is Summer Supercard. Saturday night is the NXT show, NXT Takeover, and then Monday of next week is the finals of G1 Climax. However, I've actually got plans to be at a baseball game on Saturday, Twins game, and I want to spend the weekend with my wife. The part I'm not at the Twins game, so I'm not sure what we'll be covering next week. I'll watch Summer Supercard. I don't think I'll get any of NXT in though.
I'll probably watch as much as I can. I've got my kids again this weekend, and I'm single again, so I don't have any other obligations.
No, but you did say you're probably not going to watch the main event of TakeOver.
I'll end up watching it because I love the two players, the two people involved, but I just maybe
hate the game.
Well, maybe this will finally be the 3 stages of hell that I liked. A lot of it was the reason I didn't like the Triple H Steve Austin is because that was when Triple H was at his power trip, and he was just not putting anybody over. And I never saw the other one. That's the only 3 stages of hell I ever saw was his against Austin.
Oh, you didn't see the one where it was Cena against Ryback?
No, I didn't see that. Because it was Ryback. But I'll watch it, and maybe I'll get a different impression on it because of the quality of the wrestlers involved.
Okay, cool. And I will watch it eventually, but I don't think I'll be able to watch it before next Monday.
No, not with the busy weekend you have.
No. So, and then of course, the weekend after that is... I don't even know what's going on the weekend after that. Maybe nothing in pro wrestling. That'd be surprising, wouldn't it?
I don't believe there is, because AEW doesn't have anything now until the last week in August. Well, yeah, because there's 3 basic super shows that last weekend in August.
Yep, one for NJPW, one for NXT UK, and one for AEW.
And Ring of Honor doesn't have anything until September, if I remember right.
I think that's probably correct.
So I think next weekend is it. I think we'll have a couple-week break before we have to really do much. Well, yeah, I mean, we'll do a lot, but you know what I mean, as far as having a busy weekend like that again.
No, yeah, I do know what you mean.
Because I think Supercard's coming up soon, and... Well, yeah, it's this weekend. Jesus Christ, you just said that.
I just said that.
You literally just said that.
And I'm really looking forward to the tag war. I really think that should close the show. I don't think with the lack of heat that Alex Shelley has coming into that match against Matt Taven that you can close the show with the world title match. So I think it's got to be the tag wars closing the show.
It has to be. It truly has to be.
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
That's actually got heat to it.
Exactly. And the other match with heat to it is the rematch between Roosh and Dalton Castle, and this time it's a no disqualification match.
Oh. I haven't heard any of this card other than the 2 big title matches.
Shane Taylor's defending the TV title against Tracy Williams.
Ugh. I still can't get it.
Go ahead.
I still can't buy into Tracy Williams. I don't know what it is. I just cannot buy into him.
Well, he's just really bland with no character. That's probably why.
He's Rhino without Goring.
We have a rematch between PJ Black and Silas Young. We have TK O'Ryan and Benny Marsala taking on the team of the NWA World Tag Team Champions, even though they're not affiliated with NWA anymore. Brody King and PCO.
They're the NWA Tag Champion.
What's that?
Oh, that's right. They did win that tournament. For some reason, I had it in maybe it was wishful thinking that the actual NWA Tag Team Champions were those upstarts that we saw in the match. But you're right. It is Villain Enterprises.
It is, yeah. Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham are taking on Bandito and Mark Haskins.
That'll be a fun match.
Roosh is against Dalton Castle, like I already said. Tasha Steeles versus Kelly Klein for the Women of Honor World Championship, and then there's a CMLL trios match on the card too, which is Caristico Soberano Jr. and Stuka Jr. versus Barbaro Carbonario, Hechicero, and Templario. So should be a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what we have coming up this coming Friday that we'll be covering. So I don't know if you noticed, but all the names I listed, we do not have Marty Skrull on the card.
which kind of surprises me.
Me too.
And you know who else is not on there? The recently turned mercenary.
Right, but he has that injury that he re-aggravated last weekend. So I don't know how able he is to compete right now.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right, I guess.
I would hold him out until you actually need him, if depending on how injured he actually is.
Yeah, that is true. All right, well, I
think it sounds like a pretty good card, actually.
Yeah, it does. It's one I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah, and I would be amazed if he walks out with a world championship, but I guess stranger things have happened.
I think if Jeff Cobb got beat, that Matt Taven's going to have this for a while.
Oh, he's not on the card. At least that's right. Jeff Cobb isn't on the card.
Yeah, but he's in the G1, so he's got his own stuff going on.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. Oh, and I forgot to mention that we found out this week why Tennille Dashwood hasn't been part of Lifeblood.
Yeah, because she signed with TNA.
Started with TNA. Yep. Impact.
Or Impact, not
Close
TNA.
enough. We knew what we were talking about.
It's going to be a decade before I stop calling them TNA. I was still calling.
And by them, they'll be back to calling themselves something else. So.
I've been calling every now and then. I catch myself calling Defiant WCPW. So it's just that's what I learned first. So that's what I'm sticking with.
And I still call WWE WWF sometimes.
Oh, I do that all the time. That's like commonplace for me.
Want to hit the plugs before we get out of here?
Yeah. Look us up on Twitter. It's at Regi Co-op, at Zanman LOP for Shane. And use hashtag Kingdom of Honor. That's the easiest way to find us because I put that hashtag on everything I put on Twitter. Facebook, just search Kingdom of Honor.
Wait. You put it on everything. You put it on
I've got to start doing that every single time. Every time. But look us up on Facebook. Just search Kingdom of Honor. It's a skull with a skull wearing a crown in front of a ring. We're not as active on Facebook as I really would like to be, but if you're not a Twitter person, it's a good place to go because all of the links that I post on Twitter, I also post on Facebook as well. And of course, our big site, the Patreon site, that's where you're going to get exclusive content. With our if you subscribe to our $10 tier, you get access to all of it. Our archives, the articles that I've written, for the last 10 years, not just wrestling related either. Every now and then I get a bug up my ass about something else and write about it. And then you've also got
the problems that I've been having with bugs up my ass.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to hear any more. But you've also got a tier that talks about our non-wrestling related shows. This week coming up, we've actually got 2 that we're going to try and get done. One is the first episode of season 2 of Jessica Jones, and then the other is the 3rd arc of Thor: The God of Thunder series. So those are coming up this weekend, or this week at some point. You've also got our 4th tier, which is where we break down old pay-per-views, and right now we're working on the ECW series, so we're going to have our second one of those up this week as well. And then our Legacy series, we call it the Desert Island series. I've been more going at the Legacy series because it fits more, but we pick a wrestler and we break him down, and we break it down and we pick our 4 favorite matches, moments, whatever. If it was an interview or if it was something else, it can still make the list. But lately it's been matches because the people that we picked are wrestlers. They were never known for their one of them was known for their promo work, but the other 2 weren't. We've done Benoit, we've done Eddie Guerrero, and Rob Van Dam. And it looks like, I don't know, have we decided for sure that we're going to, in honor of the recently passed Harley race, we're going to do a Harley race one next?
Yes, I think that's what we're going to do.
Okay, we'll put our Sugar Shane Helms.
Yeah, we'll put up Sugar Shane. Sorry, Sugar.
He will always be Sugar Shane to me. Not Hurricane. But he'll probably be the next one we do, because I'm actually really excited to talk about Harley.
One of the reasons why Jeff is single right now is he couldn't stop calling me Sugar.
Well, yeah, that happens. It's because you're so sweet. You're so sweet, Shane. But he was such an innovator of wrestling moves that he's a guy that I just really need to. I really need to figure out 4 matches of him that I can chalk up there.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people are, I think one match that is one of the big things he's known for, or big feuds, is against The Rock. So,
well, yeah, I mean that's
I'd be surprised if we didn't have him, have that match in there somewhere.
I don't know, man. He had some good matches when he was a member of 3 Count.
I almost want to slap you for saying that, but you're right.
And his cruiserweight run in WCW, actually, he put on some really good matches too before he was, to be honest, I felt like the Hurricane gimmick didn't help him. It got him over as a comedy character, but I thought Shane Helms was just so good in the ring that his work in WCW was actually better at a lot of times than his stuff in WWF was.
And this is why that sometimes we're on a lot of times we're on the same wavelength, because I loved Sugar Shane Helms.
Oh, I did too.
I adored that character, and I really think he could have been a superstar if WCW hadn't closed its doors.
And I really think his work, and I hate to say it because they were such a joke. I mean, they were the 3MB before 3MB came around. Was when he was with 3 Count. I really felt like him and Shannon Moore and Evan Courageous put on some great matches.
Absolutely. Yeah, they really did.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean them against the Young Dragons were some of the best stuff on WCW programming during that year.
Well, yeah, because they were future stars in the making.
Except for Evan Courageous.
Yeah, well, Evan was kind of the weak link, but there was a match between Shannon Moore and it's one I got to find because I thought it was great. It was Shannon Moore and Shane Helms against 2 guys that aren't Chuck Palumbo and Sean Stasiak. When they were tag team partners in WCW, it was those 2.
Born Thrillers?
Before they were the Natural Born Thrillers.
Oh, okay.
Before the 4-person stable started, it was just those 2. It was like one of their first matches was against Shane and Shannon, which was just amazing. I really hope I can find that one. So, but yeah, that's coming up this week. It'll be Harley Race. So, and
not this week,
another
it'll be next week.
Next week, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that too because ever since I found out he died, it's sad to hear of him passing, but we both said the same thing. He did not look like he had much longer on that 10 Pounds of Gold episode. But I am really, really, really looking forward to going back. Thankfully, on the WWE network, they've got a lot of his NWA and WCW stuff, or AWA stuff, in the archives. So we'll be able to go back and watch some of his feuds with Terry Funk and Ricky Steamboat and stuff before he became King Harley Race and destroyed his entire legacy.
Wait, Harley Race was in AWA?
He was in briefly for like a year.
Okay, I had no idea.
He was there around the same time Hogan was.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then I don't think that's on the WWE network though. I think they cut because I think that was before AWA had a weekly show. So they were just doing house shows then.
Ah, okay.
But he's also got matches against Flair that I'm hoping we can find too, because some of his matches against a young Ric Flair were really, really good as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So we've got a lot of great stuff. He had a match against Dusty that I really want to see. I might end up watching like 15 matches just to watch him on this one.
And who could blame you, really?
Well, Harley Race was the shit back then.
Yes, he wasn't shit. He was the shit.
He was the shit. The shit. So, I guess that's all I got.
All right. So, again, next week we'll be covering Summer Supercard, and Jeff will probably talk a little bit about his opinions on TakeOver, since I will most likely not get a chance to watch it. And so that's all we got for this week. We'll try to do better next time. Make sure you stay tuned to all the other LOP radio shows. Tomorrow we have the Global Revolution, I believe, is coming back. On Wednesday is Sports Entertainment is Dead, where Plan has finally joined the Shane party and the Doc party and realized that WWE sucks these days, and now he's covering past WWE shows, which is kind of cool. And then on Thursday we will have, of course, Imp with his Imp's LOP Radio Adventure. On Friday we have The Right Side of the Pond, and on and I think there's still nothing yet this coming Saturday, so will be the next ones. Oh no, then on Sunday we will have Steve around, or somebody at least around, with the aftershock for WWE's second biggest show of the year, SummerSlam. And then of course we'll be back with you next Monday. Until then, that's all we got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff piping in with
Goodbye.
G1 Climax 27. Goodbye and good night. Bang.